I don't know where to start because part of me still can't believe he's gone. Writing this feels like dragging my hands over broken glass, but if I don't put it somewhere, it'll eat me alive. My best friend, let's call him Mark, was the funniest man in every room he walked into. He had this gift of turning anything into a story worth listening to. Waiting at the DMV, a broken shoelace, even a boring work meeting, he could make it sound epic. People gravitated toward him. He was magnetic in a way I never was. Where I was cautious, he was reckless. Where I hesitated, he dove in headfirst. But behind that charisma was something darker. Mark drank like every glass was his last chance. At first, it was easy to laugh off. We were in our 20s, going out on weekends throwing back beers like it was a sport. Everyone drank too much sometimes. It felt normal. The problem was, Mark never stopped. What was partying for the rest of us was daily life for him. Monday nights, Tuesday afternoons, it didn't matter. He always had a drink in hand, always another excuse. It's just one, he'd say. I've had a rough day. But one turned into 5. 5 turned into blackout. The excuses piled up. He was late to work because he missed the bus. He bailed on birthdays because he wasn't feeling well. He lost girlfriends who couldn't compete with the bottle. I covered for him more times than I can count. Called in sick on his behalf. Lied to his parents. Picked him up off sidewalks and drove him home while he mumbled apologies. The lowest was when he called me at 3 a.m. slurring his words, begging me to come over because he couldn't stop shaking. I drove across town half asleep, found him on the bathroom floor drenched in sweat, clutching a half-empty bottle of whiskey. He looked at me with glassy eyes and whispered, "I'm tired of disappointing everyone." That night, I held him like a child and promised we'd figure it out. And we tried. God, we tried. Rehab programs. AA meetings. Detox clinics. He'd swear he was done. Swear this was the last time. He'd go a week sober, 2 weeks, once even a month. But then something small, a fight at work, a breakup, even just a lonely Saturday, would send him spiraling. I kept telling myself he just needed more support, that if I stood by him long enough, he'd find his footing. But the truth is, addiction doesn't care how much you love someone. It doesn't care how hard they try. It doesn't care how many times you pick them up off the floor. It just keeps taking. The last time I saw him alive, he was sitting on the curb outside a bar, head in his hands, mumbling about how he was done, how he couldn't keep living like this. I hugged him, promised again we'd figure it out. He nodded, but his eyes looked far away, like he'd already left. 2 weeks later, he was gone. Liver failure at 39. The call came from his sister. I remember her voice cracking, the sound of someone breaking in real time. I remember standing in my kitchen, phone in hand, staring at the floor tiles because my brain refused to process the words. Dead. He was dead. My best friend. The man who once held my secrets, who made me laugh until I cried, who could turn nothing into a story. The bottle took him before anything else could. The funeral was surreal. People stood up and told stories about his humor, his kindness. They remembered the good times, the adventures, the charm. They painted him as this larger-than-life figure, and in many ways he was. But all I could think was how much bigger his life could have been if alcohol hadn't hollowed it out. I sat there, dry-eyed, not because I wasn't grieving but because I'd already cried all my tears during the years of watching him self-destruct. The funeral felt like the final page of a book I'd been forced to read aloud long after the ending was obvious. People tried to comfort me. They said he was in a better place. They said at least he wasn't suffering anymore. They said I'd done all I could. Maybe they're right. But it doesn't feel that way. It feels like I failed him. Like I should have tried harder, shouted louder, dragged him further from the edge. Survivor's guilt, they call it. It's a clinical term, but living it feels anything but clinical. The hardest part is the silence. No more late-night calls. No more ridiculous stories. No more texts that made no sense because he was drunk but still trying to reach out. I never realized how much of my life was wrapped around keeping him afloat until he was gone, and suddenly there was nothing to hold. Sometimes I still dream about him. In the dreams, he's sober, laughing, whole. We're sitting on a porch somewhere, drinking coffee instead of beer, telling stories that don't end in shame. I wake up from those dreams with tears on my face, because I know I'll never see that version of him. Addiction didn't just take his life. It took the future versions of him I'll never get to meet. I've tried to turn the grief into something useful. I talk about him openly now, about the way addiction ate him alive, because I don't want anyone else to think it's just a rough patch. I tell people not to ignore the signs, not to make excuses, not to think love alone can save someone who doesn't, or can't, save themselves. But when the house is quiet, when the world slows down, it still hits me. The bottle won. It stole him from me, from his family, from himself. And nothing I do will ever change that. So I sit with the silence. I remember his laugh. I remember his stories. I remember the way he used to look at me when he wasn't drowning, like maybe I was the one person who saw him clearly. And then I remember the curb, the whiskey bottle, the words. I'm tired of disappointing everyone. I wish I'd told him that night that he never disappointed me. Not once. I wish I'd said it louder, more often, enough times to drown out the voice that kept driving him back to the bottle. But I didn't. And now it's too late. Addiction doesn't just take people. It takes possibilities. It takes futures. It leaves behind empty chairs at tables, unanswered calls, laughter that should have filled decades but ended too soon. Mark should have had more years. He should have had more stories. He should have had more of everything. But he didn't. And that's what I live with now.